Hi, this is Louise Fletcher with This Painting Life, and today I am with Patty Ripley, who is an amazing painter from BC in Canada. Thank you, Patty, for joining us. It's really nice to have you with us. So first thing I'd love to know is just tell everybody a little bit about your work, first of all, about what you do.
Well, current work is more abstract. I've got a couple galleries that sell these large abstractions that are pretty much based on my life, like based on nature, based on experiences within just living, whatever comes out on the canvas. I try to just honor every day as a new day that shows me something to come forth. The galleries that have the works tend to go towards ones that have been more nature-based, but I'm shifting and transitioning into some more, I don't know, more just stretching into other areas right now. So, yeah.
So when you work intuitively like that, so what is the process to get to that?
To get to a finished painting, or
Yes.
to get
So you're working on something that is about life, about your experience of life, but you're not painting a vase of flowers,
right.
or a
Right.
so how do you tap into whatever it is that you're going to paint?
I think it's just been it's a real depth within me that's been there forever, and I believe it's within everyone. And we get taken away from it really early by, just especially with creatives, with having to conform to certain ways of doing things. So
Right.
hearing that voice, that intuitive voice that feeds this stuff is, I don't have a meditation practice per se. I do spend a lot of time feeding it with walks in nature. Got a yellow lab and I go for dog walks a lot. It's my I don't know, way of just honoring something that's an unknown, and I really enjoy doing that. It's so hard to explain how.
Oh, I know. So when you go to paint, though, would you be thinking? So you've been on a dog walk, you've seen a lot
No.
of view. Are you thinking of the view when you paint, or are you
I just get totally out of my head in terms of thinking, and I just try to get working, expressing and playing and enjoying the materials and enjoying the experience of putting the paint down. I have years though of prior learning, so I did spend a lot of time learning, how to about design principles, about the elements within creating. And early on, I realized that creating something that's super realistic for me just wasn't what fed me. So having the actual experiential play was really important. And that had to be left without a lot of thinking. I had to just sort of let it happen like a kid would when they show up to a piece of paper.
Did it take you a while to? Because for me, I was working representationally for a while and struggling and not enjoying myself and not sure why, and not getting the results I wanted and not enjoying myself, but still knowing I wanted to paint. And it's only when I found being more intuitive that I started to really have fun. Did it take you a while to find that, or did you always kind of know that that's how you wanted to work?
Absolutely. Like, years of sort of exploring different things, looking at different artists, discerning what other artists did that I could take from and play with. Quite a bit.
Yeah. So what was, I mean, I read a great story on your website going right back. So I read a story that you were, I think, 6 years old when your grandma gave you a box of oil pastels.
Yes, and I still have them, and they have my name written in 6-year-old Patty with my maiden name in there, and oh, it just takes me back. And I remember, yeah, the story is the smell of the oil pastels and the line of them all in order of color was just like so precious, and it just fed something in me early on. Like that memory is like a huge one that I went back to when I was whenever I get a little bit like off track of why am I painting? What is this all about? You know, you have those cycles. You have to go back to those things that early on sort of sparked you on into creativity. Yeah.
Did you ever get pulled off creativity and go into a normal job, or were you always working in art and creativity?
In some vein or another, yeah. I like originally I had the interest to do painting, and I went to university and went for a very practical degree in what was it, graphic communications. I got a Bachelor of Science in graphic communications, which was all about the printing industry. And at the time it was presses, and I figured I could work in the advertising industry because it was too scary to jump out as a painter. And yet I remember watching people walk by on campus with their portfolios, and I'd be like, oh, I want to do that. But then it's like, oh, well, I don't know if I can afford to, you know, support myself at that. So definitely that, I worked in that for a couple of years in the Bay Area. I grew up in California and married a Canadian, and then moved up here on the 5-year plan 30 years ago.
Right.
And then once we came up here, I started to just explore. I didn't want to get a degree, you know, go and get a BFA or anything. For some reason that wasn't calling me. So I just started to explore working with people whose work, you know, interested me. If I saw a class that maybe was an acrylic class at a local art university that took continuing education students, I'd take that. And I just started to teach myself by seeing what I was drawn to. Yeah. I remember early on a class at one of those, I think I was, I don't know how old, but in my 20s or late 20s. And the instructor, they had critiques in it. And it just melted me because it was like too intense to have someone that, like that unsubtle with his opinion of what I had created. And I realized, well, I mean, maybe I needed to grow a thicker skin, but then at the same time, it sort of diminished what I created, because what I created was a very authentic, sort of out there piece. And I don't know, it had a way of diminishing kind of a bit of what I wanted to do. So I sort of veered away from anything that had to be a formal critique, you know, program, and took over the years. Then I had children within the 5 years of our 5-year plan, and we decided to raise our kids up here in Canada instead of the Bay Area. And and my husband is he travels quite a bit with work, and he's an engineer, and so we decided I'll just do as much as I can. I'll raise kids at home. And I did art in the 20 years of that, you know, raising the kids. Just I taught classes at their school on a volunteer level, and then I just mixed it in. I never, though, fully stepped into the potential of gallery, you know, work and getting it viewed more substantially until my kids had left a few years ago, 5 years, 4 years ago. Yeah.
So when you made that shift, how did you, that's a big shift to make, from going from just doing it for yourself, or, you know, to going out and approaching galleries, and you're in nice galleries. So how did you, I don't know if pluck up the courage is the right word, but get out there and be brave enough to go to those places and say, look, what do you think? And how did that go?
Oh, well, by then I'd, what was it? There was a sort of a catalyst artist who was from here, BC, actually from this town that I live in. And he had this oh, and I'm going to get it wrong, I'm not even sure how many hours. You basically have to put in a lot of hours into your craft to get it to a point that, not like that it's ready to me, that it's ready to just really get out there. And
Yeah.
so I'd put in a lot of time. You know, I would work every day or every other day, and then you get to the point where you're working and it's feeding something in you that you want to miss a day of working. And so, and I kept, just honing my skills that way. The biggest leap I guess I took was applying to the Vermont Studio Center for an artist residency. And that was I think that was just 3 years ago in 2015.
Right.
And got accepted into that for a month in February, and spent a wintry month there where you had a dedicated studio space. You were with other artists, writers, all different types of visual artists, and people gave their artist talks most nights. A lot of people were more, had the academia of an MFA behind them, and they gave very in-depth talks about their craft. And I think one of the moments there that defined what my shift from being, in my head, I had defined myself as just a stay-at-home mom, right, instead of an artist. And I had a critique there, and a fellow from he's a teacher at one of the back east universities, like a really prominent one. He has his works in the Whitney Museum. He came through to give me a critique, and I kind of like spoke to my work, which I'd gone whole hog with. I had like 7 canvases on the walls, and we'd been 10 days in, and I was just going to town with all different layers and color, but still very intuitively, like not structured and not thought through with a plan, like a lot of the people around me had.
Right.
Like very much from my heart, like it's just how I am. And I said, I'm just a stay-at-home mom who's doing this. And he looked at me, and I was like, and then I knew as I said, it's like, oh my gosh, is that all I am? No, I'm more than that. And it really, I had to do a real mindset shift. Actually, I called a coach from there to work with quickly, who got me on task to like, would you please just go and look up all the popular people, like artists in the world who were self-taught? Yeah. And would you just make a big poster of that and step in?
Idea, yeah.
And so I did. I had like Grandma Moses in there, who didn't come out to painting until she was 70. Frida Kahlo, like all these different female artists, to just put it into my head that, okay, yes, I was an awesome mom and I'm an awesome creator. I can be here. And I did a lot of sort of mindset stepping into who I am, experiences in the last 3 years to just further that.
I don't think men do that, do they? I'm sure some men do, I'm sure. But in general, I think women tend to do that. And I see it with the group the Facebook group and the people who watch this video. There's all sorts of things. There's, I'm not an abstract painter. Some of the people in the group do abstracts. The people who don't say, oh, I'm not really, shouldn't be here because I don't paint abstracts, I do realistic stuff. Or I shouldn't be here because I'm not a real artist because I stay at home and look after my kids. Or I'm not a professional artist, I've never sold anything. Whatever it is, we find ways to self-fulfill ourselves down, don't we?
It's a really strong feminine pattern, and there's a lot of shifts happening right now to break out of that. And of the era that we're from, our role models were not as, they were, anyway. I think we're shedding a lot of that right now, and it's a really good time to be a female artist, to be coming into, the the power of the creation. And as women, we were like very much the creators of society for thousands of years. And so my big passion is just to get people to create, like,
Yes.
just do something, and don't attach too much to value it. You know, don't attach too much to it. The act of creating is helping this world. You know, we actually need, I think the world needs that positive light of creating than all the negativities that's out
I
there.
think that's such a good point, because I sometimes think I pick artists to talk to whose work I love, and I saw your work on, I think on Art to Life Facebook page, and just
Okay.
like, oh, I love, love, love. It was some of the abstract, but I just was like blown away. And so I pick artists whose work I love, just because I'm selfish and I want to talk to them and pick their brain. But then, I think, oh, the people watching, you know, they'll be, you know, sometimes you watch and you think, oh yeah, but I'll never get to that. And I think that's a really great point you're making, because, for example, this weekend I went to an artist retreat in London, at the home of Alice Sheridan. I don't know if you know Alice. She had some of her work on the walls in her home, and there was one particular painting that if I had some spare money, oh my goodness, I would have just been handing over the cash and walking out with this painting. It was stunning. And there's this little voice in my head going, oh, don't even bother. You'll never be able to do that. Look at that painting. You can't paint as well as that. And then you just have to remind yourself that that's not you. And no, you'll never do that painting, but you'll do something else. And so I think it's such a good point to make, that you may be not as far along the path as someone else. So someone watching this who sees your paintings and thinks, oh my goodness, they're beautiful, I can't do that. Well, perhaps you can't today. But you're doing what you're doing. And as you said, the act of just doing something positive and beautiful in the world, instead of, and active, instead of sitting and watching telly or moaning or being angry or doing something negative. It's so important. So
and it can even stack up, and you can have a lovely ceremony of releasing it by burning it. You know, you don't have to even have it be an end-all thing to have as a material commodity, you know.
Yeah. Do you well, first of all, what would you say are the struggles, if there are struggles or challenges, of making the work that you make?
Well, there's always the process of fun. Like, I like having a blank canvas ready to go. And I like getting those first marks on them, because I go playful. I use different material. I use maybe, you know, oil pastel, graphite. I might write something on there, like kind words underneath it, you know, and have that intention embodied into the piece, although I forget about it later because I just keep working.
Right.
And then I start to block in some of the shadow areas, the darker areas that I want the eye to carry me to. You know, I'm painting right now as I'm talking. Right? And then, you know, I'll try to stay still with the fresh and whatever color excites me, and just that. And then all of a sudden it's sort of done at that stage, and I'll leave it to dry. And that's like so exciting and vital and fun. The next stage, you have to come back to it and add more layers in. And that can still, if I keep the intention of, you know, it just being a process, and let's keep the fun and joy. But there is a point when I have to shift over to sort of a refining stage. And the refining stage then comes in with how do I want to carry, mainly it's carrying the viewer's eye. Movement is huge for me in my paintings, in my life. You know, that's how I sort of activate anything I'm really fairly physically active. And so so I start to look at ways I can work with what I've done, and to sort of start to hone it in and see what it's saying to me, you know. Yeah.
Why is it that at that first, when you've got that first day's painting and you really love what you've done and you've had fun, why do you not leave it there and put some varnish on and say that's good?
Oh, it's a good question. It's to me, it's just it's not built up and with enough layers on it yet. There isn't substance fully on it. In fact, a lot of times, one of my favorite things to do is to take paintings that, I haven't given to galleries or have stacked that aren't really quite doing it for me, and take one of those and just totally do the same thing on one that's got a lot of underlayers already showing, because then you can use parts of it and that depth that starts to come out of the layers.
Right.
It really doesn't show up like online. It's not until you get, in front of a piece that you start to see what was put into it and what texture there is. So I guess it's because texture is important to me. I like a bit of texture.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was it with the paintings of Alice's that I saw in a home. I've seen them online and I love them.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen the amount of, you can't see that amount of depth unless you're standing in front of a piece.
So true.
And then you're like, oh, look, I wonder how that was done. And even when you know how it was done, it's cool. But if you can't tell, it's even more interesting.
Yeah. That's true.
So the struggle is in the refining. Now, how do you know when it's done? And are you ever wrong?
Oh yeah, you're wrong a lot. Because you bring it, like I have a small studio that's in our house property here, and it's in the outbuilding. So I'll bring it into a viewing wall in the house when I think it's getting close, and from a distance, I'll start seeing things. I'll eyeball it, I'll sneak up on it, I'll see it in different ways, and you start to just add in, or you realize it needs something different. And at some point, though, yes, you just have to go, okay, it's done. It's I don't know, it's an internal knowing. It's not very helpful for a beginner, but you just know that you need to move on sometimes too. Like,
yeah,
you don't want to keep fiddling. You want to start something fresh.
if somebody is struggling to find their own style,
Yeah.
What advice would you give them in terms of ways to identify, ways to start tapping into what their own voice or their own style is? I know that's a big question.
Yeah.
And I've sprung it on you without any warning as well.
No, that's okay. It's style kind of like we've talked about in CVP, where Nick Wilton talks about, it's definitely a discernment is part of it. You're discerning who you are by maybe just looking around your environment. Like, do you have soft fabrics? Do you like big pillows? Do you like comfort? Do you like texture? Do you like clean lines? Do you like modern? Do you like to exercise by swimming, or do you like to just meditate? I don't know, like you just have to look sort of at your life clues of what you're drawn to. And then another thing that helps with style is, of course, looking at what art you're drawn to. And if you can start to figure out like what parts of the art you're drawn to jazz you up, and you might just play with doing that, try that out and see if that can be some kind of a mark that you'd like to use, and then do more of them. Or so go to where there's like juice in your life. The juicy bits.
Yeah, I think because I think often what you find as well, if you see something that you like in other people's work, then you try it in your own and you go, oh, I don't like doing it myself. I like seeing it in other people's, but I don't enjoy doing it. That's quite interesting when you find that out.
Yeah, it is.
And I've had that happen a lot of times.
I did watercolors a lot when I started, and they were very, some of them were just really much more realistic, and they, you had to work backwards with saving the white areas and, the clean lines, and if a bit of water bled over. And I used to hold my breath while doing it, and I didn't realize it until, and I'm thinking, I really don't like doing this. Like, I love seeing the water move with the color, but it just painting that way, I could do it, and I sold pieces that way, like of things I made, but it was like not feeding the real me.
Yeah, and when you look at your work now, it makes perfect sense that that wouldn't be something you would enjoy.
Yeah.
And somebody, I just had a question earlier today on the Facebook group, and I've been trying to think about an answer, and by the time I edit this and put it on, it'll be too late, but it's a good question anyway to talk about. She said that she had heard me talk about happiness in painting and how painting brings joy, and she said, is that supposed to be how it feels? Because it doesn't feel that way to me. It feels like a struggle and a stress. And I've never thought of it as something that brings happiness. Am I doing something wrong? And I'm trying to formulate how to answer that, and I'm not that doing something wrong, but my thought is that probably something along the lines of what you just said, maybe using the wrong medium for her, or maybe doing the wrong type of art for her. Because until you find your own thing, then if in other words, if you're not enjoying it, I think it probably is the wrong thing for you.
Yeah. Or being at that learning level and wanting to be farther along than you are. So your expectations aren't being met, and it's frustrating.
Right. So it could be that. So that's the other big block, isn't it? It's that idea of, I want to be as good as X person, but I've only just started.
Yeah.
Did you have that
having really self-compassion, and having self-compassion and kindness with yourself while you're learning? Like, I've been where she's at before in stages of my life, or seeing, one other thing that happens is you'll make something your way and you're like, oh, it just, who's gonna buy that? Because it's just so bizarre or different, or not of the not what you see in your area where you live, maybe more contemporary than what your local people are doing in your community that whole comparison thing really, with age, I think, or with age and with doing, the creative act starts to leave when you start to get into your creative voice. So yeah, she cannot compare or figure out what it is that is driving her.
Yeah, so I think it's maybe, first of all, maybe I need to just ask her to figure out what it is that's causing the unhappiness.
Or what it is or opposite, what it is that causes happiness.
Yeah.
Like, what in your life brings her that feeling, and just focusing in more onto that.
Yeah.
Because somewhere along the way, there must maybe an inner critic or something that's just, keeping her shine from shining. It's like,
I always think, like, if we decided, if somebody who's not physically active decided to run a marathon, they would start by going for a jog, or maybe even a walk if they're not physically active. They wouldn't get annoyed with themselves when they couldn't run 26 miles tomorrow.
Right.
But we do with art, we think, oh, I want to be a great painter. Oh, look at this, it's rubbish. Right, that's just, I shouldn't be doing this. And I don't know what it is about painting. I ask everybody this when I talk to them, and I think it was Sally Hurst said she thinks it's because painting is such a visual thing. It's not like writing where it's private. You write it, nobody can see it unless you show it to them. Painting, you do it and it's right there. Everyone can see what you've done. So it can't be hidden from anybody. I don't know if that's what it is, but we think we should be better than we are always, I think.
Yeah, it's part of what pushes people forward to get better.
Yeah, and it's good as long as you're using it as a positive motivation.
Yeah.
That I know I can get there one day, and I will get there, but it's all right that to be where I am now.
Yeah, that self-compassion part, like I'm here and that's okay. Yeah. It's frustrating as hell, but it's okay. Yeah. You can hate it, but it's okay.
And actually, once you accept it, it's fun because you can only learn those things once. Everything that you learn in at any stage, you only get to learn once. If you're too busy wishing to get to the next bit, because every single bit you get to, it's never going to be the end. I'm sure it's never the end. I'm sure that multimillionaires want more money, and whatever you get, if you're looking outside yourself, it's never going to be enough. So if you can get happy with the act of doing it, which is what I have now. I have these paintings getting ready for a show in a few weeks, and I doubt I'm going to sell anything because the gallery's already told me they haven't sold anything this year. It's a very small gallery. It's a really small gallery, and it's a it's an offshoot of another business.
Maybe you'll break the pattern there.
Maybe I will. I sold things in there last year when she told me that last year.
Oh, see, there you go.
But even if I don't, it will not upset me because A, she's told me, and B, I genuinely had fun and learned a lot doing these paintings.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, it would have really knocked me back if that happened. Right. So I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say to everybody who's watching this. So talking about the struggles, but for the rewards for you, what are the rewards for you of doing this? Because if you wouldn't do it if it wasn't rewarding, obviously.
Well, I just feel incredibly grateful to be able to just do it, and to begin with, like whether it's the outcome is sales or not, just to be able to like have this space to paint and create. Actually, I like the connection part a lot, and so this is what's starting to happen more, is that people are coming to me to just enjoy the art, and I'm trying to share the process more with people because I've sort of had a private practice in a way, until I got it into the galleries and things like that. Right. It's lovely to hear the feedback from collectors or people that buy about what it feels like to be living with the art. And artists don't get to hear that very often, especially when galleries start selling your work, because they sell it and I don't know who's bought it, have the personal interaction. It's sort of gone, and it's a commodity, but at the same time, it is a part of you. And a part of, for me, is that there's sort of a sacredness within my work, within me, that I want to impart, and that people can take with them by living with the art and feeling the effect of living with it. Hopefully giving them that joy,
So other than galleries, do you sell directly as well now then?
Mm-hmm. I have people come to me at my studios and buy. Right. Marketing is my next goal for improving. Hasn't been my best, but room for improvement there.
How do they hear about you then? How do you get the word out?
I'll have a thriving Instagram account right now that's growing, not thriving, but it's growing, and that's been good. Mainly it's word of mouth with local people. So that's how I do a lot of the sales. Or designers, interior designers, and things like that. Yeah, so that could improve. I could get people to hear about me more.
Well,
Really
no,
need to work on that marketing part of, and yeah, so I feel that there is yet another transition. You know, the work's coming along, flowing more, and now the next thing that'll flow is how I show up with it into the world, and I think
yeah.
I'm stepping into that, so it's good.
I think that we were saying before this call that we're both introverts, and so everyone should be very impressed that we're even doing this.
High five, introverts.
Yeah. But I think artists tend to be introverted, and that idea of then going out to people and saying, look at my art, come and would you like to buy some, is just really we were talking about that on the weekend, about doing art fairs and standing in front of your art and selling it, and some people find that really very difficult, obviously, and others are more comfortable with it.
Oh, right, for sure.
But we were talking about, there's apparently a guy at the south of England, he comes and he sells his paintings, and the general consensus was they weren't particularly good paintings. That's obviously subjective, but he sells them for a lot of money, out of a sense of confidence. He just stands there with a great presence. He talks to everybody as if he's the best painter that ever lived, and these are the best works that have ever been shown. And people hand over money, hand over fist, and walk out with his paintings, and he doesn't leave with very many at the end of the weekend, and everybody's looking like, how is this happening? But how it's happening is because he's giving the impression that I am the best painter you're going to see today, and you need to have one of these paintings. If you know what's good for you, you'll buy one of these paintings.
Yeah.
And it's all about that confidence, isn't it? I really believe that.
It's partly all about that. I mean, I think you have to really honor who you are. And I think the more you honor that and then find the roots that work, things can open up for you. So
yeah, well, I think it sounds like who he is a very confident guy. That's just who he is. So
for sure.
And a very confident guy who's decided to make big paintings for a lot of money. I think that's just who he is. So that's just what he's going to do. But I do think there's something about, if you have a presence that says, oh, would you like to look at my art? It's not very good, but if you wouldn't mind having a look, that comes across to people. But if you come across with a real presence and strength of, I really believe in this because it's beautiful.
Well, yeah, and that again is part of voice and who you are. And there are people that are, you know, less confident and they don't have that, and their work is still developing, but they're trying to put it out there so they don't feel as confident about their work, and that's where they're at. So if they can have compassion for that, the confidence will come. Like you said, 2 years ago you couldn't do this. Well, 4 years ago I probably couldn't do the paintings I'm doing now. Or have an interview like this. So it's just the more we can be kind with ourselves, you know, just ease into it and put yourself out little stretches at a time, and pretty soon the little stretches become like bigger stretches, and it feels great.
I think that's so important to think that. So 4 years ago you couldn't have imagined yourself doing this work, being in these galleries, or doing an interview like this. So
not from who I'm a very different person than I was 4 years ago. And that's very much self-driven. Like I've explored a lot. I've explored a lot of things that interest me, and therefore bring more of that passion to my life, you know, which then carries over into the art. So that's
how much of this change do you think was driven by doing the Creative Visionary program course with Nick Wilton?
Of this change, it's super helpful for me for community, because I tend to be kind of a lone wolf tendency. So that's been great. It's been really nice having that community, and and he's just such a wealth of wonderful information and sensitivity, and so it's been helpful. It's been a helpful catalyst that's gone along with other things that I've done personally as well. So
yeah, but you were already kind of on your way anyway with the other
stepping into my life, like I think, you know, tended towards living through others very easily. So it wasn't until late 40s, I guess, that I started to go, huh, you know, I need to step into my life and do and share and be who I am. So, yeah.
And I think that's one of the things they say, isn't it, during the CVP program that I had never realized before, but it turns out to be so true, that art and life are so closely connected. If you improve your life, you improve your art, or vice versa. For me, I came at it the opposite way around. So I started to improve my art, and now I'm making changes in my life as a result of improving my art. You came at it the other way around, but either way, you can't improve one without the other changing. So if you start improving your art, don't think you can keep everything the same in your life, because you can't. It will start shifting.
Yeah, things do shift for sure. And, you know, it takes you opening up to those shifts as well.
Yeah.
Saying yes to them.
Yes. Yes. But I think
yes.
maybe if you say no to them, maybe the art has to stay still then. Maybe the art has to go backwards, or maybe you get blocked again. I wonder what happens if you say no. Because I don't think it can keep expanding and growing if you don't keep expanding and growing as a person. Well, I don't know. I don't think either of us know, because we didn't say no, did we? So so if you were, my last question for you is a bit of a tricky one, and I should have prepared you in advance. But if you had to give advice to your younger artist self,
right,
to save yourself a lot of stress and hassle over the years, to get where you are now faster, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, like a part of me says I don't really need to have to talk. I didn't need, why go back and answer to that person? Like, what my path happened the way it happened to get me to here now. Like, I don't know that the hurry would have been to be better, but as a starting artist, I think, the giving yourself the ability to make mistakes, explore a breadth of things with a lot of kindness to yourself while you're doing it, can really open you up to just creating beautiful things or authentic things. Yeah, I think that might have been, like, if you step into yourself as an artist from an authentic place that shows, you know, raw emotive things as well as beautiful soft things, and the whole blend, just accepting all of it and putting it out there and trying it, not worrying what people think.
I think that the theme that keeps coming back from everything you've said, which is such a great theme, is kindness to yourself.
Yeah,
because
I think we're really hard on ourselves as creatives with
because if your best friend came to you with a painting they'd done and was really nervous to show it to you, someone you really love, and said, what do you think of this painting? You would be kind and you would be encouraging. Now, I hope you would be generous, and
exactly,
you would never trash it. But with our own work, we're just like, we say the most awful things that we would never say to someone that we love. And so it's such a good way to think about it for everybody when they're I've set them some exercises to do, and they're doing the most amazing things. But when they're doing something and they're being critical of it, just to think, would I say this to my best friend? Am I being kind now? Or am I just being mean? I think being
right.
That's brilliant. I love that. So everybody, be kind to yourself.
Well, and have self-acceptance for where you are.
Yeah.
So if you are, in that space of critical, then just acknowledge it and go, oh, okay, here I am. That's happening, and put it aside and maybe start a play piece, like, yeah.
That's a good point. But don't do what I tend to do, which is, oh, I'm doing that critical thing again. I'm so stupid. I'm doing that critical thing.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a bad time.
Yeah, because that's even worse now. Like,
yeah, no kidding.
Well, this is brilliant, Patty. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed talking to you. It's just been another great interview, and so much for everybody to think about, so much for me to think about.
Oh, good.
Thank
and
you
it's been great and thanks so much to you for taking this on. This is great.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.